This video deals with multiplying and dividing with integers. Integers mean that you can bring in the negative numbers. So like -5, -4, -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, all the positive numbers as well. But it means that there won't be any decimals. So it won't be like 2.3 or -6.5. No decimals, just whole numbers that are positive and whole numbers that are negative. So that's what we're going to deal with. The multiplication and division I'm talking about, I'm not going to cover the long division process here or like double-digit multiplication where you have like 15 times 630. I'm just talking about your normal math facts, that sort of a thing. So the two basic rules that guide these skills are this. The first rule is if the numbers being multiplied or divided are the same, or let's have the same sign. That's probably a little better way to write it. Sorry. So if the numbers have the same sign, guess what? The answer is positive. I think of it as, I don't know, I like routine in my life. I like things to be pretty ordered. So if I'm multiplying numbers that have the same sign, that fits together. It feels good. It feels like a positive thing. So that kind of helps me remember that it should be positive. The other rule is kind of the opposite. If the numbers that you're multiplying or dividing and they have different signs, one's positive and the other one's negative, then guess what? The answer is going to be negative. The answer is negative. So again, maybe you think of if your two numbers that you're multiplying have different signs, they're either kind of fighting each other or they're not agreeing. They're not in agreement. So if your numbers are multiplying and they're not in agreement, your answer has to be negative. Those are honestly the only two guidelines that cover integer multiplication and division. You multiply and divide the numbers just like you do as if they weren't negatives. So if you can remember those two guidelines, it's awesome. If you can't remember these big long sentences or you don't have like a mnemonic device, a student taught me this actually, and maybe it's not politically correct, but it does help you if you kind of like flake out or you can't remember. So here it is if you have a plus times a plus, what you can think of is when good things happen to good people, that makes us happy. When bad things happen to bad people, maybe it's not politically correct, but we're happy about that too, right? And then if good things happen to bad people, well, that really doesn't seem fair. Like, they don't deserve it. They're bad people. So that makes us unhappy. And then if bad things happen to good people, we don't like that either. Like, good things should happen to good people. So that makes us unhappy. So like if you are due to take a test or something, you kind of just quickly jot that at the top of your paper. And that just might be a little bit of a kind of a little guideline for you to look at while you're taking it. So let's do some problems. So let's try this. -5 times -6. We'll try 14 divided by -7. Let's do -28 divided by +4. And then let's do -15 divided by 3. All right. So the first problem, -5 times a -6. We see that they have the same sign, so already we know our answer is going to be positive. And then just think about what 5 times 6 is, and that's 30. Do you have to put that plus sign? Absolutely not. Matter of fact, most people don't. Second problem, we have a positive with a negative. They're not in agreement. Our answer has to be negative. Now we look back, what is 14? How many times does 7 go into 14? That'll be twice, so our final answer is -2. Our next problem, we have a negative divided by a positive. They're not in agreement right away. It's a negative situation. Remember, this is only for dividing and multiplying. And then how many times does 4 go into 28? It goes in 7 times. Last problem, we have a -15 divided by 3. Again, they're not in agreement as far as their signs. One's negative, one's positive. Our answer has to be negative. 3 goes into 15 5 times. So hopefully you're kind of feeling like, okay, there's like no fast one on me, and I'm going to be like, what? Where did that come from? This is just straightforward stuff. To clarify a couple of things, if I do something like this, I just wanted to remind you that this dot means to multiply. Damn it. Oh, sorry. I thought I hit the stop button, so I was like, oh my gosh, I just wasted like 4 minutes. And that was my clock. So I apologize for that. Damn it, that wasn't a good one. But there is also another way to write multiplication. We can write it like that, like with parentheses. And the parentheses could take 3 different ways. We can put the 9 in parentheses, we can put the -6 in parentheses, or we can just go crazy and put them both in parentheses. All right? So all of that means multiplication. What happens is the way that we first learned multiplication was usually like this in grade school. As you head towards algebra and pre-algebra, it's time to kind of get rid of this as a time sign because x is usually the variable that we use in algebra. So that's why this is kind of like, nope, don't do that anymore. So let me give you problems for you to try. Why don't you copy them down, hit pause, do them, and come back and see if you got the right answer. And then I only have one short thing. After that would be how do we handle when we have 3 numbers to multiply or divide. So let's do -5 times -8. Let's do 26 divided by -13. And then let's do 11 negative times 6 negative. Alright, copy those down, hit pause, and then come back and check your answers. So number 1, negative times a negative, right away you know your answer is going to be positive, and 5 times 8 is 40. Number 2, you have 2 different signs, right away you know your answer is going to be negative. 13 goes into 26 2 times. Number 3, they have the same sign, they're both negative, so you know your answer is going to be positive. 11 times 6 is 66. Awesome. Let's do one more thing that sometimes comes up. If you have something like a -3 times a +4, but then you also have a third number to multiply, you're really going to keep the same rules, but it can feel funky the first few times you see something like this. So the way that I want you to handle it is just to go from left to right. Start with these two. The negative is on the 3, the 4 is positive, so that product, or multiplying those, is going to give you a negative number, and 3 times 4 is 12. Now we have to bring this guy down because he hasn't been taken care of, so we put that down. And so for our last part of this problem, we have 2 negatives. Yay, that's a happy thing, so we're going to put a positive sign. 12 times 2 will give us 24. Okay, let's try another one of those guys. So if we have 10 times 6, we'll make that 6 negative, and then we'll say 3. Alright, same deal. Just kind of take it from left to right. It's just a good order to go in. 10 times -6. Their signs are different. It's not a harmonious situation. We put a negative sign. And 10 times 6 is 60. So we'll have a -60 from that. Bring down the 3. Again, we have a negative and a positive. They're not in harmony. We have to have a negative sign in our answer. And 60 times 3, well, I know 6 times 3 is 18. So 60 times 3 has to be 180. Final answer of a -180. I can't think of any other ways to kind of like try to challenge you. I could go with 4 and 5 numbers and such like that, but it would be the same process, basically just work your way across. So that should be pretty good. I am really glad that you listened to this, and I hope it helped. Thanks.